All right, let's get started. Thanks for being here for the Mile High Market Brief. Charles and I have a bunch of stories that we want to share with you this week. Charles, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
All right, let's get rolling. So, big news in the real estate world, kind of big news. I mean, I think it's big news. Fathom has now decided to go into business with Bed Bath and Beyond. Charles, for those who don't know what we're talking about and how this is real estate news, can you kind of share an overview?
Yeah, so right now that if you can go and find a Bed Bath and Beyond, aisle 6 and aisle 7, I think is where you find real estate agents. And yet what we know is this. Fathom is a Texas-based company, and what they are looking to do is be acquired, right? So it looks like what we're seeing right now is that Bed Bath and Beyond, yes, while it has gone into bankruptcy, what they are looking to do is to acquire Fathom Real Estate. And through this, they're going to be able to offer many, many different arms of the real estate process, right? And we've seen this. We've seen this over the years, whether it's been Zillow or Rocket Mortgage. They're going through and they are just adding these different components because what we understand is that inside of real estate, there are this big piece of the pie, if you will. And more companies are wanting to get into this and to be able to offer these auxiliary services. And this is just another one. And so Russ, while I don't imagine we're going to see a brick and mortar Bed Bath and Beyond store pop up and you go up to the service desk and go ask for a real estate agent, what do you think is the main benefit for even like a Fathom agent at this point? Like what could you
Yeah.
imagine Fathom would gain out of this?
Well, do we have Fathom in Colorado yet, Charles?
Oh, we do. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but not many agents.
No.
Um, in the Midwest, we have a few Fathom agents. You know, I think the interesting play here is a play that I think really matters for real estate, and that is the how do we move from I closed X transactions last year to I have X homes under management. And the finite game, and I'm talking Simon Sinek here because he's coming to MegaCamp. The finite game is, I want to close 12 transactions in 2026, or 100 transactions, or 1,000 transactions, whatever. Insert your number. The infinite game is I want to be in relationship with as many homeowners as I can possibly be. And the strategy here is actually, to me, a really good one because what Fathom is saying is instead of being a place where homeowners come to sell homes or where clients or customers come to buy homes, they're saying we want to be in everything. We want to furnish the home. We want to service the home. We want to provide the warranties. We want to be involved in mortgage and financing and all of that kind of thing. And the reason is because every year, NAR does a survey where they discover, surprise, surprise, that 85% of our clients would use us again, but only 15% actually do. So by getting in bed with Bed Bath and Beyond. That was fun. By doing this, what Fathom is saying is we're going to use Bed Bath and Beyond to be our lead generation for the 7 years between purchase of home and eventual sale of home.
Yeah.
Um, Lowe's right now has a product that, and I don't remember the name of the product, but I think a homeowner for $90 a year can have certain services provided through Lowe's um, that really create touch points throughout the year. So we wanted to share this slide not because it's like game changing news, but I think it points to a reality that real estate brokers need to figure out a way to stay in front of their clients for the long haul
Yeah.
and whatever by whatever means necessary, right?
You're right. And then like I think you bring up a very good point, Russ. And so I guess my follow-up question to this would be like how many I would like this house is going to show up on bridal registries now.
Right.
Right? But we're talking again, like this is just how can we go through and just stay in front of our people, whether it is, from the purchasing stage through the warranty processes, through the upgrading to I need the plumber. And this is just one company that is doing something again just to make sure they can have all those pieces of that puzzle solved.
Yeah. I predict that Lowe's and Home Depot find their brokerages of choice. Maybe it'll be Keller Williams, but I predict we're on the way to seeing more of this kind of stuff. So, um, three quick takes on Kevin Warsh's first Fed meeting. So, new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, talked about high interest rates today, the last week during his first Fed meeting, and he indicated that those high interest rates are putting pressure on housing more than other parts of the economy, and yet the Fed is staying cautious um, because inflation is high, and because the job market is stable. Charles, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, so I think that what the Fed is seeing is just like what we're all seeing right now is that no one is looking at interest rates and saying, I'm not going to Amazon Prime that because my credit card bill is getting too expensive. What we are seeing, especially us, because we deal with the highest ticket item that most Americans purchase in their life, which is real estate. And so when we're looking at a $10 item on Amazon, and plus I can get it tomorrow morning for an extra $2, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to go through. The interest rate's not going to bother me in most cases. That's how most Americans are going to live. And yet, when we're looking at a $600,000 price point, welcome to Colorado, when we're looking at this, what we see is that it is going to slow home purchases outside of people that are needing to move because of death, divorce, babies, right? Insert any of these life motivations that are happening. And so one of the important conversations that us as real estate agents should understand is the Fed's dual mandate. And the Fed's dual mandate is simply this. We can think of this as a teeter-totter, to where they're going through and they are trying to keep prices stable. Go back to 2021, right? Money was free. Money was absolutely free in 2020 and 2021 to where people were changing the view of their location of their house just by moving across the street because why not? And what did that do? We saw people from California moving in. We saw people from Texas. We saw home prices go up 100,000, 150,000. They were waiving contingencies. They were giving up the firstborn naming rights to their children. All of this craziness was happening, and that was raising inflation. Now, what they want to do is they want to make sure that that doesn't happen. This 2% number annual inflation rate is what they're trying to stay at. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to have this number, and this number moves depending on what's happening in the world, is they want to make sure that there's not too many Americans without jobs. And I think that's important, right? It's not that do we have enough people that have jobs? It's are we at a number that we're comfortable with of people not having jobs in the United States that actually want one? And so that's what they're trying to do. They're on this teeter-totter where they're trying to make sure it's flat. Are enough Americans not unemployed? And is the cost of eggs staying flat? And if they can check those check boxes, they do not care about real estate at this point. And that's just kind of where we're at. So as we're looking at this, Russ, and we're truly talking about the Fed's not going to lower rates because we have Americans that are employed and the cost of eggs is staying flat right now. As a real estate agent, knowing that death, divorce, babies, and the Fed's not going to do anything to help us, what should agents be doing today to make sure that they're taking mind share for the market share that follows tomorrow?
Did you just ask me a question, Charles?
Yes, and that question was this, knowing
You
that we're
threw
not
me
going to
when
get.
you said the word mind share because what does that mean, right?
Right. And so what we're really just looking at is when we know we're not going to get any relief from the Fed to drop interest rates in Colorado, what should agents be doing today, knowing that life events are what's going to be driving sales?
Yeah, we have to recognize that Rates are historically good. I mean, they're not as good as they were 4 years ago, but they're historically good. They're down a little bit from where they were a couple years ago. Um, Homes are home prices, and I think we're going to see it in an upcoming slide. Home prices are slowly coming down a little bit in Colorado, and there's never a bad time to buy a home when you put unless you're planning on selling that home in 2 years. There's never a bad time to buy a home because it's always over the long term a stable investment, and money is historically cheap, and homes can always be refinanced. Um, Charles, with inflation, so there's been a lot of talk in the news about inflation being a little bit high. And when inflation is going up, what tends to be the thought of the Fed in terms of rates?
Yeah, so when inflation is going up, what we typically see is that the Fed wants to cool the borrowing of money. And so the way that they are going to cool the borrowing of money, because the only reason why money is going up is because people are spending it. And so they're going up, people are spending more for the widget. And so now we can mark the widget up because people are spending the money on it. So what does the Fed do? The Fed says, well, okay, well, let's cool the amount of money that's actually going into the population and being spent. And so what they do is they raise the rates of the cost of money. And so the cost of money goes to the bank. That's the money that they're loaning to the bank. And so now the bank has margins that they want to hit. And so then the bank is going to lend to you at higher rates as well. So
Right.
that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that we have uh, inflation going up. And so that to be able to cool inflation, to bring it back down, they start raising the cost of money.
Right. So this idea that people had, maybe Kevin Warsh becomes our new Fed chair and he drops rates to stimulate the real estate market because of where inflation is, we're probably going to see things holding where they are. And oil in the last month has gone from like $100 a barrel down to $78 a barrel. So maybe our inflation's going to come back down, and really who knows what's going to happen next.
Yeah, but even with that, I mean, let's just play out that scenario, right? So let's just pretend like we get all of our news from Facebook and that we've just gone through and we have a new Fed president, and the Fed president is going to drop rates tomorrow. Awesome. He drops rates tomorrow. Let's just pretend that that world happens. And yet, what that does is, again, that is money being lent to the banks. That does not mean that the banks are going to lend that money to you at that price point, at that interest rate. And when we're looking at this, the reason why that's important is because of this. What happens? Well, we also have lending that is going towards, let's just call it refinancing. So the bank lends you money at X% today. Tomorrow it's Y. And let's just say it's significantly less. Well, what does the bank have to do? Well, if you go to refinance, the bank loses that money that they were anticipating getting. And guess what? They're not a nonprofit. And so this just causes lots of issues. So let's be some of the smartest real estate agents in the room. And let's just make sure that when we're seeing anything about rate cuts, it does not have a correlation to tomorrow's rate for a consumer.
There you go. All right, price cuts. So this slide, this article is about the percentage of properties with recent price reductions. And there is I can't tell exactly what color that is, black line that is representative of 2026. It's roughly following the 2025 line, awfully close. Price cuts remain lower than last year in 2026, but not much. Home prices are mostly flat. National appreciation has stalled, but prices are not falling significantly. So we're not seeing the appreciation that we had been seeing. And stalled does not mean going backwards. We're not seeing a massive fall. Buyer demand is holding up, even though mortgage rates are higher and not predicted to go down too much. We think if rates stay below 6.64, the market should be stable. If rates move above seven, and seven starts to feel like a lot of money, I think, we can expect more price reductions. Um, what else do you see in here, Charles?
Yeah, so when we're looking at this, what's interesting again is we go back to a handful of years ago and we start talking about the golden handcuffs and date the rate and marry the house and all these other things that were floating around through these news cycles and again, social media. And what we do see now is through the data, they're saying at 6.5 to 6.6%, Americans are okay purchasing real estate at those percentages. Like they don't want it. We all want to go back to 2, 3%, kind of, right? As far as the money goes. And yet what we're also seeing is at that 7% mark, that's when things start to stall. And so what we have to keep in mind is this. Who is going out and buying and selling and investing, maybe not necessarily investing, but definitely buying and selling real estate at interest rates at this 6.5 to 6.6%. And that's the motivated. So what we're seeing is this. People are getting jobs and those jobs are in a different state. Well, they have to sell their house unless they're going to be renters and go through these different things. We see people getting married, they're having babies, they need bigger homes, they need insert whatever here, death, divorce, deployment, things happen. And what we're going to see more and more is when the homes go on the market, depending on what the interest rates are, we're going to see a direct correlation with this ebbs and flows of price cut percentages. And yet, here's the deal. While this slide doesn't say this, historically speaking, over the years, 1/3 of all homes take a price decrease every year. And while we're at closer to 40% more than 33%, we're still in line and we're trending lower than what we were last year. And again, it's because there's less inventory on the market. Homes are sitting. There's not as many knee-jerk reactions to get the home sold.
Yep, absolutely. Moving into some Denver specific, Greater Metro Denver specific. This is residential resale concession trends, and here what we're seeing is in May, 3635 units, average concession of just under 10 grand, and 61% of homes with concessions. Now that's May. If you look at the last 12 months, 39,000, almost 40,000 homes, average at 10,000 and 62% with concessions. Charles, why are we sharing concessions with everyone?
Well, first and foremost, like this is super important information. Like this is the information we should be arming our buyers and our sellers with. If I am going to list a home and we understand that money matters to our sellers, they're going to want to know what our home can sell for, right? Like that's going to be the conversation that they want to have. Like before we're even signing agreements, we understand that they need to know a price point. Well, here's the deal. If we go through and we say, hey, here is the commissions, we have the commission conversation, and they know that's going to be a deduction. We understand that there is going to be title fees, that's going to be a deduction. There's going to be other things, other mechanisms. Now, if I go through and let's just say that we are selling a home that's in that 500 to $1 million price point, it appears that there could be another $10,000 concession that is on 63% of every home that was sold in May. Don't we
Right.
think to be the hero, we want to make sure that our seller understands that that dollar amount could come up?
Yeah, exactly. Uh, Buyer's agency commission, is that included in these numbers?
It very well could, and yet that data is not openly shared anymore, right? We
Right.
understand since the NAR commission lawsuit, we are not sharing what commissions look like across company lines anymore
Yeah.
because that is fair cooperation and antitrust.
Yeah.
Russ,
So,
that could be some inspection type issues.
right, exactly.
Absolutely.
So really for us, what's important about this data is making sure that we can arm our clients with some expectations and help manage those expectations so that when they get through that inspection process, they don't end up thinking, holy crap, I have $11,000 less in my pocket than I thought I was going to have.
Yeah. And I mean, what if we were to look at this information and even just harm our buyers? Like, we're going to go into these conversations and knowing that 64% of everyone in Colorado is what's called 65% under that $500,000 price point, there's an $8,600 concession. What if we were to go in knowing that number and maybe we just pre-bake in those dollars with the lender, with our consumer that's purchasing that home, and then we understand what their purchase power is going to look like? Yes, leave it to me, the real estate economist of choice, to go through and to negotiate for you to get the best home that you're looking for in your price point. And let's just start pre-baking in some of these numbers, knowing that like this is something that we might be able to do through the conversations. Guys, like this puts us in a completely different ballpark than our competitors. And so this would be our challenge to you.
Yeah,
Depending on what market you're in, if you're down in our Colorado Springs markets or you're up in our mountain communities, you should be reaching out to your title companies that is doing the most amount of business and saying, hey, I need the concession data for what is happening so that I can arm my sellers and arm my buyers with the most amount of information and get this data. They have it. And let's reach out to them and get it.
exactly. All right. So here we got just two slides to go. Here we're looking at housing markets where home prices are falling year over year. And we threw some of this data into AI and got some information. Charles pulled a slide from the St. Louis Fed office. And this particular slide is Denver median listing price way back in January 2018, 480. January 2026, we're looking at about 570. What is the number? 575-ish,
Yes, sir.
something like that. We saw a high mark um, May of 2022 at 695, and we've seen a steady, slow, and not very pronounced decrease in the median sale price since then.
Yeah. I mean, we just see these ebbs and flows. And so Russ and I saw this article, and this article read housing markets where home prices are falling year over years. The sky is falling, Stuart Little. And we look at this thing and we see Denver, Aurora, Lakewood. We made another list.
Right.
And that list said we are one of the 77 markets out of the top 300 that saw a 2.68%, let's just call it 2.7% decrease year over year. And so Russ and I were having this conversation and we said, well, let's go back and let's just look at some historical data. So we went to the St. Louis Fed and we just looked up the median list price. And just like Russ said, here it is. So then what we said was this, let's go through and let's just put this red dotted line all the way across and say that this is our low water mark on where we are today. And what you can see is this. When we are getting this sky is falling mentality news article, whether it's on YouTube, Fox News, CNN, insert your news channel of choice, that prior to 2021, we see that, okay, this is where we are lower than where we were in prices today. So we're not going to argue the fact that, yes, if you purchase your home post 2021, you're probably losing money if you were to sell it today.
Yeah.
But then Russ and I were like, well, let's have a little bit more fun. So to Russ's point, we went back into Google AI and we said, what were the home prices in Colorado back in 1996?
Hmm.
And the reason why we did that is that's 30 years ago. And we know that we live in the United States, so we have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And if, let's just say that they lived in that home, which most Americans don't, for the entirety of their mortgage life, and they purchased their home for around $131,000. Guys, and these are the conversations that are important. And while we're not saying that everyone that has bought their home is going to purchase at 131 and be able to sell at 575, this information is very, very important. Russ, this goes back to the conversation that we had with Gay at on the stage. You were having this conversation. What was one of the things that Gay does when she's sitting down and talking about prices for that person's home as she's going through this process?
Yeah, she does exactly this. She does a full look back. Um, I think 30 years and talks
Hmm.
about inventory counts, number of home sales, median sale price during the good markets and she talks about the troubles of the Great Recession all the way up to where we are today. So she's armed with all of that data and gives a historical overview because most of the public kind of behaves like realtors. Like um, we think, history is yesterday instead of history is 30 years ago or 100 years ago. Like, today's probably going to be a little bit like yesterday. So we tend to not look far enough back when we're trying to gain perspective.
Yeah, and so guys, we just need to challenge our consumers. If someone says, "No, I can't sell my house because the market's down," well, the market, yes, is down year over year. Totally get that. And yet we need to be able to go through and to hear when they purchased their home, how much did they buy their home for? What are the updates that they have put in their house? And we can go through, we can look at all this information, and we can look at the debits and the credits that they have put all the way across. Because I would say this, I would say that most Americans that have bought in pre-2021 that live in Colorado probably have some appreciation in their house. And this storyline that we're looking at, which quite frankly pops up every month now, saying that we're losing money month over month. And yes, I'm not going to say that that's not true. And yet, not everyone is losing money if they were to sell their house today. And that's why we have to go back and make sure that we're just looking at all the details, sitting down with them, having the conversation, and not take that, well, I'm going to lose money as gospel conversation.
And your client, and on the flip side, your client that bought their home in 22 or 23 who now wants $100,000 more that but hasn't done any work to it is probably smoking something.
Because we are in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to close out here with the Road Act. Congress reaches bipartisan agreement on Road to Housing Act. And this is the first major housing bill in decades. It's moving through the Senate with broad industry support. And its aim is to increase housing supply by reducing barriers to building and improving housing affordability. Talk to us about this pilot program, Charles.
Yeah, so we look at this, and this is what we understand here, probably for the rest of our lives, when we are talking about legislature and congressmen and congresswomen and political figures. This is going to be a talking point going forward. I don't care if you're on the left or you're on the right, you're going to be talking about housing because every American can get behind housing. And so what they're doing is they're putting together this bill, and we've grabbed a couple of the focuses, right? Increase housing supply by reducing barriers. 100% for this when we are talking about going through and taking some of the red tape when it comes to building houses. I think that we can all get behind this. We've seen this in Colorado with the ADUs, and they've removed some of the red tape around this. But then they go through and they start talking, oh, well, let's create some pilot programs for houses under $100,000. Guys, we're not going to see that in Colorado. And when we're looking at this and we start seeing the institutional investors face new limits, this has been, NAR has gone through and been fairly vocal about this in the sense to where they've gone through and they said, listen, like, what's going to stop someone, an LLC, to just pop up tomorrow with a new LLC to go purchase more real estate, right? Like, that's going to be a very hard one to manage. But yet we live in Colorado. And what we can get behind is some of the new defect laws that they're trying to put in place. Like that's going to be one of the biggest things. Like Russ and I were looking at this, and in Colorado, we have up to 8 years for these builders to catch defect lawsuits. And that's why we're just not seeing too many condos get put up. And
Mhm.
so when we start thinking about a first-time home buyer in Colorado, we're thinking of a $500,000 property opposed to a condo, which is traditionally more affordable. And so this is kind of one of the things that we're looking at. So for us to be able to go through, we need more regulations to be pro contractors in Colorado so we can see more condos for the affordability to start coming down before any of the rest of this truly even matters here.
Right. If regulation, if consumer protective regulation makes it impossible for a builder to build uh, reasonably, then we're never going to solve the problem of inventory.
Yeah, and we can look at this, Russ, and right, we can say, well, hey, that's just greedy or that's just whatever, and yet we live in a society that is very capitalistic, and yet they're going to go to other places where it's more favorable for them to build. It's not like they're just going to stop building nationwide. They're just
Yeah.
not building in Colorado because of our laws.
Yeah. They're going to go to the Midwest
They're going to go to the Midwest. Yes,
and the
sir.
South.
Yeah.
All right. Charles, see you next week. See
Next
y'all.
week, bye all.